Hi, grade 4. Today we're going to be talking about adding decimals. Let's go over a quick vocabulary. So we have decimals, so it's a number that uses a decimal point and place value to separate the whole from the part. So 4 and 82 hundredths is the decimal. Tenths are sets of 10 equal parts of a whole. So the 8 in 4 and 82 hundredths is the tenths. And hundredths are sets of 100 equal parts of a whole. So 82 from the 4 and 82 hundredths are the hundredths. Now let's talk about adding our decimals. So we have two decimals here that we're going to add together. So we've already lined up our decimal points, and you always have to make sure when you're adding decimals to line those decimal points up. They have to be in the same spot in the question. So for this one, we have 460 and 39 hundredths plus 325 and 82 hundredths. So we're going to ignore the decimal points for now. And we're just going to add the numbers as if this was just a whole number, there was no decimal points there. So 9 plus 2 is 11, so 1 at the bottom, 1 above the 3. 3 plus 8 is 11, plus 1 is 12, so 2 below the 8 and 1 above the 0. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. 4 plus 3 is 7. So now that we've added up all of our numbers, we now have to put our decimal point into our answer. So we have to make sure that our decimal point is lined up in our answer with the decimal points that are in the question. So because there are two digits behind the decimal point in both of the decimals in the question, we put the decimal point behind the two digits from the right. So our answer would be 786 and 21 hundredths. So let's try let's try another question together. So we have 896 and 3 tenths plus 325 and 82 hundredths. Looking here, we realize that there are not, so we've already lined up our decimals, and we realize that there is no digit in the hundredths place in the top decimal. So because there's no digit there, we're just going to put a 0 in place of it so that we have something to add, and that just holds the place value but doesn't change the value. So 0 plus 2 is 2, 3 plus 8 is 11, 1 at the bottom, 1 on top of the 6. 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 1 is 12, 2 at the bottom, 1 above the 9. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 2 is 12, 2 at the bottom, 1 at the top. 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 1 is 12, so 2, and then the 1 in front of it. And now we have to go back into our answer and put the decimal point in. And remember that we have to line it up with the other decimal points in the question. So there's two digits behind each of the decimal points in the decimals in the question. So that means we put it in between the 2 and the 1 at the end of our answer. So that means our answer is 1,222 and 12 hundredths. So let's try another question. This time we're going to be adding 3 different decimals together. So we have 35 and 3 tenths plus 102 and 45 hundredths plus 9 and 7 tenths. So let's line those up there. So we have 35.3, and remember we want our decimal points to be lined up with each other. So we have 102 and 45 hundredths and 9 and 7 tenths. So we're going to add those together. Now looking here, we realize that 102 and 45 hundredths has digits in the hundredths spot. So we're just going to put digits in the hundredths column for 35 and 3 tenths and 9 and 7 tenths. So we're going to put our zeros in that place there. And now we're going to ignore the decimal points, and we're going to add up the numbers. So 5 plus nothing is equal to 5. 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 7 is 14, so the 4 goes at the bottom, the 1 goes above the 5. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 9 is 16, plus 1 is 17, so 7 at the bottom and 1 above the 3. 1 plus 3 is 4, and then we have 1 plus nothing is 1. So now that we've added up all of our numbers, we can now put our decimal point back in. So we know that our decimal point has to go after the first two digits from the right. So it would be 147 and 45 hundredths. And that is all I have for you today. Bye, grade 4.